Okay, we're live. So, hello, everybody, and welcome to Big Impact Story Conversations. And today I have a special guest, and she's going to be talking about decluttering, magic, and empowerment. So, I have with me Ashley Moon, and I'm going to introduce her a bit before we go dive right into our conversation today. So, Ashley here helps people clear clutter and find their flow so they can enjoy more time, space, and freedom. And she also offers creative solutions. I love that for a neater life. And she teaches decluttering and organizing as an art form. Wow. And she's meant to be, which is, she feels like it's meant to be empowering and sustainable. So she says that it's an inside job and that it reflects itself not just in the inner space, but also in the outer space. And I love that too. It's like outer space. In our lives and our relationships. So she has been featured in a wide variety of shows and articles. She has a BA in American Studies, an MA in Human Development, and multiple certifications for coaching, psychology, energy healing, yoga, and business. So Ashley, welcome to Big Impact Story and to the group. So thank you so much for saying yes to this opportunity for having conversation.
You're welcome. It's so good to be here. Hi, everyone.
All right. So for those of you who are watching us live right now, if you have any questions or any comments, please feel free to just post them on the comments and or the chat box in Facebook. So we will not be able to see your name if you're not going to allow StreamYard. But you can just go right ahead, and I have my Facebook open so I can see your comments from here. All right, so let's just go dive right in. Okay, so since I am really into stories, I am curious to know, how did you get to do what you're doing right now? With you have such a wide variety of experience, and yeah, so how did you come to do decluttering? So tell us about that.
Like many of us decluttering organizers, it happened very organically. It just sort of magically happened. I grew up with a mom who's very neat and tidy, very minimal, very organized. And so she passed on a lot of those skills to me. And when I was in high school, I went to go live with my dad, and him and his girlfriend saw that I was always organizing and really into it, to the point of concern. They were kind of like, "You're obsessed," right? But they started having me help them, and then their friends started asking me to help them, although I was working with clients who were hoarding and I didn't know yet what that was about, right? So I'm like a teenager in the 90s and kind of obsessive with my stuff, helping them with theirs, and then eventually would get hired. And then a friend of the family's is a professional organizer, and she started hiring me to help her and her clients. She like took me under her wing when I was in my 20s. But the thing is, I always thought it was something I would do on the side. But I didn't think it was my calling, because I was more into education, nonprofit, social justice, like psychology, other things. And then when I went to college, I actually struggled with clutter myself, because I got so busy and so into a million other things that I didn't know what it was to manage it all anymore, manage my time. And so I ended up struggling with it myself and having to go deeper to understand why and how to change it. And that actually ended up inspiring me to go deeper with clients, so that it didn't just stay on the surface. And after my last job 10 years ago, I left it to start this business full time, because my boss was like, "I love you. I don't want to lose you here, but I think you are meant to have your own business." And I was sort of bored at that job, and I was like, I couldn't find a job that both paid enough and was challenging and didn't quite seem to be working out. So I just started my own thing, and here we are 10 years later. So it's been part-time, very organically, for about 20 years, and it's been full-time for 10.
Oh, that's awesome. So you started really
Yeah.
young.
Uh-huh.
It just came naturally for you. And
Mhm.
eventually it became like not just, not just your work, but I think it's something that, comes out, like soul work, probably like helping people declutter in and out, which I think
Yeah.
is a very important work because right now, okay, so clutter or decluttering became popular, right? Recently,
Mhm.
because of course there's Marie Kondo and she's doing all of this, like, what sparks joy, what doesn't. And it did start a little bit of like a revolution when it comes to that and looking at like our external world. Because it's usually when we say clutter, it's always about the external,
Mhm.
right? So what you see, if there's like, oh, there's a bunch of stuff, your room is messy, or that, there's so much inside your closet that it can get so overwhelming,
Yep.
right? So I'm wondering also, like, when you say clutter, what does it say usually about you? I know when we initially talked, um, we talked about these four types of people. And so I want to know, I mean, everyone has clutter,
Yeah.
right? So what can you say about that and share a little bit about what you what you shared to me? I think you can
Yeah.
better than me.
Yeah, so, clutter is a part of life.
Yeah.
If clutter is essentially anything that doesn't serve you anymore,
Mhm.
something that you no longer love or use, that's just being neglected, dust in the corner, broken. But we also have emotional clutter. And if we don't heal and process and move through it, it can make us sick. And a lot of times, our external environment is a reflection of our inner environment. Or we could have a great external environment, but we want to help our insides match our outsides and feel peaceful and calm inside
Mhm.
too. And they do play off each other. I think what you're referring to with the four types is yes, everyone has clutter, but there's also, and it's all about your relationship with it and learning to let it go as a way of life, right? Not just a spring cleaning where you're desperate and like, oh my God, but as a way of life, right? But there's also chronic disorganization, which is when it's a pattern and it keeps returning. And that definitely has to do with your habits and your mindset and your story around clutter. Or
Mhm.
maybe you just didn't learn or you inherited certain attributes, right? There's clutter, chronic disorganization, there's hoarding, right? And I did an episode of hoarders. You've probably heard about hoarding. Sometimes we just have
Yeah.
hoarding tendencies, and that's fear based on some level that there's not enough, or there's trauma that you might have inherited from family members where something was taken or there was a major loss, and some part of you feels like it has to overcompensate, but to the point of extremism, right? And or there's compulsive shopping is the fourth one. Being a shopaholic, getting that quick fix,
Yeah.
whether it's dumpster diving or yard sales or online, especially these days. And what that
Mhm.
does is it gives you a sense of and like a hit, right? But then you can't use it all or keep it all. And it's some people go into debt doing that, right? So clutter, compulsive shopping, chronic disorganization, and hoarding. I said those in a different order, but you get the idea.
Yeah, and I think you really hit it, like in a sense, like the shop being a shopaholic. I'm not a shopaholic, but I do understand what you're talking about in
Mhm.
terms of these days we're just like in front of the computer all the time because of course we don't go out as much as we used to, right?
Right.
So it's all about oh, there's another book, which by the way, right, that I didn't really read all of the book, just the feeling of wanting that. Oh my gosh, I'm going to get something in the mail. I'm going to. So the next thing I know is that, oh my gosh, I have like, I'm even open and now I'm wanting some more. So how do we counter that though? That wanting, that kind of desire, especially right now, of just, it's a click away, right? Or that you said it's a fix in a way that wanting to open something up, something new. And then after that, it's like, okay, it's just over there gathering dust.
Yeah. I'm writing some things down because I have like so much to say about this and I don't want to go on a tangent. Um, One of the best things you can do is pause and really ask yourself honestly, what am I really buying here? What does this represent to me?
Mm.
And what I like to encourage people to do is to be the solution before they buy the solution. Because we're in a society where we think we can buy the solution to everything, a quick fix. And really, the real sustainable, empowering work is when it comes from within. And when we, make decisions from a place of love rather than fear. And love is the umbrella of abundance, and there's plenty, and I trust, and it's okay. Whereas fear would be more of the hoarding energy of like lack mentality, not enough, I better buy, or I can't find it, I better buy it again. And really, if you slow down and learn how to ask yourself, where is this coming from? Is it love or fear? And you choose love as much as possible, you're going to end up seeing those decisions reflected all around you and within you. And decluttering is really about getting honest with yourself, and reducing compulsive shopping is learning how to love yourself rather than fill a void.
I love that. Love yourself rather than fill a void. Yeah, because it's that thing. It's like I think probably it's also about binge eating. It's like just trying to like fill that void that's in there. Yeah, that's really interesting. So I about hoarding, right? I mean, I wanted to, I think, know what's the difference. How do you know that you're already on that point of actually hoarding, right? And when do you stop? Because for some people, they do not see it, right? That they're actually like just amassing like
Right.
material things or stuff in their garage, or even just in the closet itself, like a bunch of clothes that you really never use, but you do not want to let go of them. So when do you say I'm a hoarder or I'm a hoarder?
Right. So there's one great resource I would recommend. The website challengingdisorganization.org has so many resources, many of them free or low cost, like $5 pamphlets. And you can learn so much about the psychology of clutter and hoarding. And what I'll say to that, though, is if you're questioning it, it's less likely that you're hoarding. It's the people who don't even question and refuse to look at it that often end up needing an intervention, or they just learn to live that way, right? So if you're questioning it, you're probably just cluttered or maybe chronic disorganization or shopping. Hoarding is when it starts to get in the way of your life to the point of it's not healthy. You're blocking doorways. You could cause mold or a fire. There's a hoarding grid. It's a scale of 1 to 9 that a lot of service workers share now, this grid. So like if there's an emergency and they've got to come with an ambulance and a stretcher, and they know that they're a level 8 out of 9 on the hoarding scale, they're probably going to have to be prepared to come in through a window and bring a helicopter. You know what I mean? Like there has to be a scale so that we know what situation we're walking into. But level 1 on hoarding is just things are clearly like one big sign is you're really into collecting bags. And why? Because they hold things, right? They contain things. So if you really love collecting bags or purses or containers, or I've seen like people addicted to suitcases, right? It's the ability to be able to have, to be able to hold on to contain. And so that's what I have.
Okay, that's interesting because it brought up some memories. When I was when I was younger, I collect a lot of stuff. Okay, so from just stationaries or stamps. I used to have a stamp collection. Then eventually, as I grew up, I have like a huge CD collection or a huge cassette tape collection. During the time there was cassette tapes, so I have collection after collection after collection, and then I have VHS tapes that were. Of course, they were big and
I remember all those.
When I was in college, I would transfer or move places a lot. Of course, it's one dormitory to another, one apartment to another, and I would bring that with me. And I remember that I would like hire like a transport just so I can bring those along with me. And I couldn't remember now where those stuff are. Like, I mean, I've been bringing them all over, and then suddenly I would just I don't know where they went, if I threw them away or just dumped them in my parents' place back in my hometown. So it's for me, it was, I didn't really think of it then, because of course I was in college, I was a teenager, and in a way, when I think back right now, it's like I've been bringing a whole lot of those stuff, like, some sort of a baggage,
Mhm.
that luggage that I just literally just bringing along with me everywhere I
Yeah.
go. And it's kind of like, when I look at it, it's, oh my gosh, it's still heavy, right? So I guess, I mean, I know there's nothing wrong with collecting stuff, right?
No.
But it could reach to a point that it becomes a little bit like questionable already,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
Well, it's so empowering to know your identity and like what you're passionate about, and it will show up in the stuff that you collect. And if you
Mm-hmm.
really care about things, and you're passionate, you're gonna acquire them. There's nothing wrong with that, right? Um, it's also important to remember that we come into this world with nothing and we leave with nothing. But
Right.
while we're here, we get attached to stuff. And it's up to
Mhm.
us. It's really our responsibility to find a way to manage it so that it doesn't manage us.
Yeah.
That we're very intentional, that we know our inventory, that we keep what represents who we are today, right? We don't want
Mhm.
to become our own museum of ourselves, right? So yeah,
Yeah.
the more clear you are
And
about who you are today, the more easy it will be to make decisions about what you keep or not. That's why it's so empowering. That's why when you let go of the past version of you, you make space for the current you to rise.
yeah.
And it doesn't mean
That,
don't keep anything
yeah.
nostalgic. You can still keep some things that are meaningful to you, but it's not all or nothing. It's being selective and intentional
Yeah.
about a selective amount, right?
Right. Yeah. And I think what you're saying also, is that, it's one thing to, when acquiring, right, there's some sort of attachment to it. And I think that, the important thing is the ability for you to let go. So, and I think, I mean, just going back again, when you were talking about like, letting go of the past version, and going through something, and that the inner world reflects the outer world. So when I think, about 4 or 5 years ago, when I was going through like really, this point in my life when I didn't know what to do, what's next, etc., and I have to like literally, move from, one place to another, like
Mhm.
my hometown, and get work somewhere else. And I remember that time it felt like nothing else matters. I don't care about the material stuff anymore. And just,
Mhm.
I packed my bags. I only had like, I think, one and a half like luggage, like one big one small one. And that was my life. And so when I moved out of that, and I felt like really like free in a way, that I didn't have to be so super attached when I used to be. Like, oh my gosh, my stuff like this, I left them all behind. I have a DVD collection this time, but being able to let them go. And so
Yeah.
I completely, relate to what you said, that when something else goes inside, that the external world is also reflecting it. Like for me at that point, it was, what am I going to do with all of these stuff? Because it didn't matter to me anymore what they represented for me in that point of my life. So yeah, I wonder if, if you can say something about that, about the inner and the outer world, in terms of.
Yeah, we really don't need much to survive, right? And when we are grateful for having our basic needs met, and we're grateful for the cherry on top of the ice cream, the flavor that we get to paint our canvas of life with, it is fun. It is exhilarating. The possibilities are endless. We love to have options, especially as Americans,
Mm,
right?
yeah.
Really, after a certain point, the stuff just becomes distraction from you, So sure, like I love to surround myself with colorful pins and post-its, right?
I love
But if
courses.
I had tons of these, that started to overwhelm
Yeah.
my desk, that means that I'm not slowing down and being okay with just enough for right now. That maybe I have imposter syndrome and I need to like overcompensate, and sometimes even overworking is trying
Mm,
to prove that you are enough, that you have enough. Like, yeah, it's very interesting. And honestly, there's no cookie cutter psychology.
yeah.
Everyone is so unique and different with their clutter story. And what I invite people to do is just get curious and have fun with it as you learn about yourself. And I wonder why I'm so attached to da da da. Like, I'm really into blankets, and I think some part of me fears that I'm gonna freeze to death or something. Like, maybe it's a past life experience, I don't know, but like, I'm really into blankets and I have to watch myself. And the beauty is that there really is plenty of abundance and prosperity to go around in the world. When
Mhm.
we hold on, we could actually be sharing that with someone else. And I don't say this to shame anyone. It's just that it's going to weigh us down if it's more than we can manage. And we might as well share it with someone
Mhm.
else who needs it, right?
Yeah.
So when we are conscious about our clutter and decluttering, and it's more in our culture, even just in our own home, um, I think the less guilt or shame or should energy will feel about those who are in need. And I would love to help flip the whole script of how we address conscious consumerism and giving to charity,
Mhm.
and look at how,
Yeah.
when we're organized with what we have, we can actually share more easily amongst ourselves and each other and throughout the world. So decluttering isn't just an inner outer reflection about our stuff and what it represents. It's the volume and amount of intention and manageability and empowerment, sustainability that you put within your ideally quality over quantity, really appreciating each and every item you
Mhm.
and making use of it, and then sharing what you're not using. And we will all be better off because of it. That was probably a long answer to your question. I hope I.
I love it. I mean, you're making me like think a lot about it. I'm writing it down here. There's the guilt of that comes with it in letting go, right? But it's like, and the shame and the guilt that comes with it too.
Mhm.
So I feel guilty throwing or giving this stuff away because, I might need it for the future, something like that,
I
right?
have a book recommendation for you if you're open to it. Um, Organizing from the Inside Out by Julie
Uh,
Morgenstern. It's on Audible if you're too busy to listen to it, or the library, perhaps, if you don't want to have
yeah,
clutter.
yeah, exactly.
It goes into the top 10 reasons people tend to hold on to stuff, and you just named a couple of them. Again, making decisions from a place of love versus fear. The fear umbrella is should, obligation, I spent money on that, so and so gave it to me. But if you sit with that, you can feel its energy as a lower vibration frequency than I love this, I use this, it lights me up. Eventually it's probably going to lose its
Hmm.
power, like that kind of feeling, and that's when you can let it go.
Mm.
But yeah, really, when you declutter, you're really looking at how you see the world. You're looking at how you make decisions, what you hold on to, what it represents,
Mhm.
and how you're ready to break free.
Yeah, and mentioning it also, it's like when you declutter, it's actually making space for what the universe is is giving for you or
Yeah.
is giving you, right? So I love that there is abundance, because really I feel that it's just coming from lack. Like, I don't
Mhm.
want to let go because I may not never have this again in my life. I think something like that too, especially if
Yeah.
it's like a high valued item,
Yeah.
right? That
And
would be
here,
really
this is where it's about perception and perspective too, and even where you live and what kind of resources you have
yeah.
available, right? So if you're in a part of the world where you've only got one black sweatshirt, or like one sweater or sweatshirt, that's your warmth,
Mhm.
even if it has holes and it's dirty, like if that's your one warm piece of clothing, you're going to love it up. You're going to cherish it. You're going to hold on to it, right? But if you're in a part of the world where you've got 50
Yeah.
of those and you're really only wearing your favorite 5, maybe the rest of those you'll get to eventually, right? It like I'm thinking of Cardi B, for example. I love her, but she has like all these purses and all these shoes, and I'm
Uh-huh.
not condemning that, right? It's our personal choice.
Right.
But sometimes we have so much more than we'll ever possibly be able to use. And that's when it can start to feel a little off, especially in today's world where we're seeing what's
Mhm.
happening on the planet when we're over consuming, right?
Yeah, yeah, and it does show up. I mean, the environment. I mean, not just us. I mean, emotionally, physically, right? But also, it shows like just the environment itself, like with the
Yeah,
amount of plastic that's
yeah,
out there. It's destroying the oceans, or
right.
the litter that we have, the trash that we have, and it's crazy. Like just
Mhm.
reading about them and
Yeah,
being, some of these um, plastic materials are being shipped off in other countries, and they
yeah,
become the problem of other countries. Like, so I mean, I grew up in the Philippines, and you talked about like it depends, right? Right? Because some of
yeah.
them, like, it depends where you grew up. So I
Mhm.
noticed here in America, it's really about consumerism. So
Yeah,
there's always that excessiveness, like that having stuff because it's just so easy. Like I mean, with just ordering it online, the next day it comes, it arrives. And over there in the Philippines, at least when I grew up, it wasn't all the time just as easy as that. And seeing that there really is a lot of people, and I'm pretty sure here too that don't have as much resources. But even then, yeah, but even then, looking at those things, though, it doesn't mean that we cannot let go, right? That even if we do have a little bit of the stuff, not as much as what others have, but it's also, I think, like, what is, like you said, is it, from love or fear?
mhm.
And is there still use for whatever it is that I feel that the value of this item that I have with me right now? Well, yeah, and it's very interesting.
Yeah, it is.
Like opening a lot of doors. Like, oh my gosh, yeah,
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
yeah, and
Yeah, it
yeah,
really is about perspective. And a lot of times, too, we compare ourselves to others and we think that, oh, we should have more like they do, or we should be more organized like they are. I should be more minimal because they
yeah,
are. No, you get to find out what works for you and honor that. I like to say, don't compare and despair. Compare and be inspired to learn more about yourself,
mhm,
by seeing how someone else chooses to live. But yeah, it really, if we were to live in a way that we shared more amongst ourselves, like how, like here we have a lot of walls and houses and we don't know our neighbors, but in places where there's still villages, I feel like people can kind of potluck and bring more to the
yeah,
table, you know? Um,
that's true.
yeah, it's
Yeah, I
interesting.
think that the sharing is easier, and
Mm-hmm.
like knowing that you're not really gonna go hungry, like, what I mean? Like, you can knock on doors and they'll give you food, and
Right. And I've been in touch with Goodwill lately and some of their top executives because I'm asking, like, where does all the extra stuff go? And
yeah,
there's a lot of controversy around this. Goodwill has the means to clothe so many people. Um, from what I understand, they try to sell as much as they can, even if it is to third
mhm,
world countries, right? And I want to make sure that they're not wasting opportunities to help people that really need it, you know?
yeah,
So there's all these mixed reviews, and I'm trying to go right to the source to find out. But when you have a place like Goodwill that's already so organized and there's so much potential
yeah,
there, I think we might as well work with the resources we have, right? Before we try and go reinvent the wheel.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, I'm looking into it because even they have been super full. During COVID, their centers have been filling up. The trucks aren't running the same. Even transporting stuff to third world countries doesn't look the same nowadays. The way we recycle is changing. So much of what we were sending to China to be recycled isn't. So that's why we want to be even more aware of what we're buying and then sending off to either be recycled or donated, because we can't even assume that that's what's happening. We want to be mindful as much as we can be with what we consume.
Right. Yeah, that's actually also another good topic, the conscious consumers.
Oh yeah, it's a whole
we could just go on and on. I love that actually. Yeah. Like about choosing and really, but I know that's going to be another topic.
Well, so much of what you're getting at through these questions is like, is there enough time for us to do all this? We're so busy just keeping up with our job or business, our family, our life, and, making time to declutter, to organize, to systemize can feel daunting. That's why I'm working to break it down into bite-sized chunks for people so that it feels doable and sustainable. And I feel like we can do it together, as a community and as a world. I'm just looking for ways to go about it all the time.
Oh, I love that. I'm pretty sure you're going to do so much for that. Let me just read a few comments here. I cannot read your names because it just shows Facebook users. So I apologize if I do not read out your names. Let me see here though. Oh, okay. There it is. Oh, so Bodhi. Oh, she said, you both look so beautiful and glowing. Oh, that's great. Thank you. So organizing and decluttering my computer desktop is my big thing. I think that's also very important. I can't read your names because it just shows Facebook users. So I apologize if I do not read out your names. I think I'm having I'm having an echo.
Yeah, I actually went to look at the questions or the comments and it pulled it up twice. Sorry.
I was like, where did that come from? So she also said, this is such an informative and moving conversation. Thank you both. You're so welcome. And I'm actually enjoying this conversation. Okay, so you mentioned about you, as much as possible, you want to give it in simpler, bite-sized.
Yeah. Wait, did we have a question about digital computer, or she was just commenting?
Well, sure.
Was it a question or a comment?
No, it's a comment.
Okay.
We can. I actually have a question about that. Now it just escaped my mind. Anyway, okay, so let me just let's address this actually, because clutter is not just outside, right? So the clutter in the mind, and yes, what she said, there's just so much stuff, like all, the information going in and out right now. Like even for me, for example, like just every day in my inbox, there's just like, if I leave it and not check it, there's probably going to be like several hundreds, email just coming in.
Right.
And it can be a little bit like overwhelming, even just, seeing that and, oh my God, what is this? And even unsubscribing or even, just cleaning it up becomes like a chore, and it's every day. So
yes. So the 3 steps to organizing anything are to sort, then purge, and then organize the heaps, because they're already sorted. You'll see how much of it you have. That's just a simple version, though. You can, like a nutshell version, you want to start off generally sorting before you get detailed. The same goes for digital. So the more you can, with your files, sort and put them in files. With your emails, same. But I'll tell you, for emails, what I like to do is red flag the ones that require my action, then orange flag it once the ball's in their court, and I just want to make sure they don't drop the ball or I forget. And then purple is for just a resource or a reference, something that I want to be able to look up later as a template or a guide or inspiration. That's all I've needed so far. And every day I knock out the red ones first. I also browse all the unread emails and flag the ones that need my attention, and then mark the rest, either delete or mark as read, because there's just too many. I've had my personal email now for like 15 years and my business one for about 10. So they add up, and you can keep unsubscribing. They're still going to come in. So those are
That's a good tip.
yeah. And you can have folders in your email. I actually don't even really use those much, because you can search for stuff, and as long as you're flagging and staying on top of it, I think it's pretty good. I do have a folder in my email for receipts and taxes, because then I really want that all in one place to give my bookkeeper accountant.
Yeah, those are the important stuff. Okay, great. Thanks for
what's realistic and what you'll maintain always.
Yeah, the priorities. All right, so let me just go back to the question. Some other tips, So you gave us one for digital decluttering. So for those who are just like looking like, okay, after watching this, what can I do next? Just really simple bite-sized ways and tips.
For decluttering and organizing?
Yes.
I would say start with giving yourself one area that you keep clean and clear. It might be your desk if you're having to do school or work every day from home. And just really start with that one space. Because if you can give yourself one space that you learn how to take care of and maintain, you take care of it, it'll take care of you. That's how that works, right? Once you've got that down, then you can watch it ripple effect, butterfly effect, and move it to another area. If you don't want to do a desk space, or maybe after your desk space, an altar space or a meditation space, something small, simple that you can sit at and meditate with or have some peace and comfort with. Because if you just look at your whole house needing to be organized and you see it as a giant mountain and you have a tiny spoon, you don't know how it's going to happen, you really want to just start with something that's going to give you immediate peace or immediate ability to function. That's why I offer do a desk space or an altar space or both if you need a little bit of the left and right brain kind of energy. Another tip sometimes with clients who want me to help coach them through their whole house and they really don't know where to start is we'll start at the entryway. When you walk in, make your way through the house, but starting as you walk in, and then where do you tend to go next? And you can do it one room at a time, but it's also helpful to do one category at a time. And you can either start with getting the hardest thing over with first, but what I recommend, or the thing you've been avoiding, just get it over with. What I tend to recommend, and I work intuitively with people and I ask them questions to kind of gauge, but you can ask yourself, like, how could I ease into this? How could I flow into this and do something that doesn't feel as emotionally charged? Maybe like books are easy for you, but clothes aren't. So start with the books and ease in, right? So those are a variety of ways. And if one stands out to you, great, go for it, because we're all different.
Yeah, I so love that because it does make sense. And recently we decluttered the kitchen. And because
that takes the longest of all the rooms.
But actually, it's like when we enter to the entryway, there's the kitchen. So of course, I spend more time in the kitchen now than I used to, and it always like annoys me each time that I use it that I don't even have a space to even have the chopping board there, And then we thought of like, hey, how can we make it like more conducive, for us to use it and get it organized and stuff. So yeah, we bought some organizers and then cleared up the stuff that we don't use anymore. And oh my gosh, like there's space when we thought that I can't move or and then there is actually space.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
That's awesome.
So, yeah.
Another tip I would say if you're trying to declutter or downsize or get organized is to start with the resources you have, and maybe buy containers or organizers like you did to help contain things more orderly, but then practice working with what you have and not buying more until you're really clear on what you actually need and you have space for it, right? And to look at, for example, what does the kitchen represent? that's where you nurture yourself, right? You nourish yourself and your family. Like that's where you take care of you. So you definitely want it to feel inviting and inspiring and healthy and, or, baking pies or whatever you want to do. But like, you want to make it really fun and inspiring. And remember, like if you start to get like, oh, I don't feel like organizing the kitchen anymore, never mind. Remember why you're doing it, what it represents, what it allows you to have, and take a deep breath, recommit to your vision and go for it. Because if you just do it because you should and out of that fear mentality, you're less likely to really see it through and maintain it. So think about what a clean, inspiring kitchen offers you and then make it happen. And again, those 3 steps: sort like with like, purge one category at a time, and then have a home for the keeps. Maximize vertical space whenever possible, use hooks. But yeah, each room serves a purpose, and it's really good to tune in with what the purpose of that space is so that it inspires you to keep it orderly.
That's really good. I mean, this is such a good shift. Like when you said, like, what does it represent? So, in my mind was like, okay, I never really thought about that in a way, because for me, it's like, I see clutter. This is the kitchen. I want to cook. I can't cook. So and then when it started to like clear up and it can start to like move around, it became like what you said, it represented nourishment. It represented like, my health. This is how I'm going to feed myself, especially during and it does work. That if I look at it that way, that it doesn't become a chore. It doesn't become like I'm going to sludge through it.
Yes.
It's painful,
Yeah. So the way that I teach and coach, whether privately or in the group I have coming up, is really about your mindset and your perspective and your approach, so that you see it's something you get to do for yourself, and you'll like start running off to go do it instead of running away from it. When you tap in from the inside place that realizes how fortunate it is to have a kitchen, to have a place where you can feed yourself, what a big deal that is, how you're taking care of your temple, your body temple. You want it to be fun and inspiring and uplifting and energizing. When you do this work, it's like you're returning home closer to yourself in some way, right? By melting away the stuff that doesn't serve, so that you actually, the things that you love and use stand out more. They don't get buried by the things that you're kind of like whatever about, right? It's powerful.
It is very
so
powerful.
worth it.
Yeah. And, I mean, just thinking about the abundance, right? Or the gratitude that comes with it, of actually having, the ability or the capacity to have these kind of the resources to be able to have these stuff. Right? So it just gives a lot that I have more than enough.
Yes.
So, yeah, that's really great. Okay, so I guess this is like a good way to actually wrap it up. And I know that you did mention something about having your own program that's coming up, and at the same time, I know you have a free gift for us, for those like who are interested to do some decluttering work. So can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. So there are a couple free gifts. You're welcome to either or both, right? One is the first page of my workbook journal. It's 3 steps to organizing anything we talked about earlier: sort, purge, organize. But it comes with worksheets, and it really helps you understand that process of getting organized. And then the second gift is about decluttering your inner space by creating your altar space, right? So it actually guides you. It's a PDF that helps you create your altar space, how to go about it, how to sit with it and be with it and have fun with it. And so they're very different kinds of gifts, but feel free to check them out. And then my program is a 90-day decluttering detox, and we're going to do it together day by day. And that starts January 1st, but people are welcome to sign up now. And every day there will be a short video and guidance with how to go about one category space at a time. And we're going to have a community of doing it together, and a weekly 90-minute live class where we get to share progress and challenges and resources and find your accountability buddy somewhere throughout the world because I have an audience all over. So I'm really excited to see how we all come together in January for our 90 days of decluttering together.
Sounds like fun and exciting. Okay. I'm going
Sometimes
to.
we need hand holding and bite size.
Yeah.
We really need, okay, so what do I do now? Okay, now what do I do? Okay, now what do I do?
Exactly.
But I do it in a way where you're learning how to be able to do it yourself after those 90 days, right?
Oh,
that's what makes it sustainable and empowering.
Okay, so for those of you who are interested in that one, you can check it out. And by doing that, you can download a free gift. I'm going to post the links later on, so just watch out for that. But actually, I can actually post it now here in the chat box for those of you. No, I can't post it in the chat box. We're going to have to do it later, okay? Yeah. All right. So I wanted to say thank you so much, Ashley. I learned so much today about decluttering. I know there's still a lot more to talk about, especially I'm very much interested about, conscious consumerism. I'm into a mindfulness also, and I feel that it's one important aspect that has to be brought in.
Yes.
Maybe next time we can talk about that. So
I would love to. It always starts with us, right? And then we look at our space and then how we can branch out into our relationships in the world. And we want to always go in that order for true empowerment.
Yeah, perfect.
Yay. It's so good chatting with you today, and hello to everyone watching.
Thank you, everyone, for those who join us live. And for those of you who are going to watch this later on, you're going to learn a lot. So for those of you who are interested to get Ashley's gifts or the free downloads, I'm going to post them later on. And so also I'm interested to know what are some of your key takeaways for this session or this conversation. I'd be interested to know what those are, right? All right, so that's it for today. Thank you all so much for staying with us, for listening in, and for watching this live or later on. So until the next Big Impact Conversations. So bye for now.
Bye.